Well, yes, ladies and gentlemen, the stage is getting all set. Till then, stay glued to your seats because it's time for the first power panel of the day that will talk about leveraging data and artificial intelligence for competitive advantage. Well, all right. So before I invite our speakers, we have a small video. Can we have the AV, please? All your eyes towards the screen, please.
Hey Mom, hey Dad. It's me, Ella. Well, a digital version of me. Just a bit older. Amazing what technology can do these days, isn't it? All you need are a couple of pictures, like the ones you share on social media, where they can be taken and used by everybody. I know, for you these pictures are just memories. But for others, they are data. And for me, maybe the beginning of a horrible future. A future where my identity can be stolen just like that. Where I can go to prison for things that I would never do. Imagine my credit score being destroyed, Dad. Or my voice copied to scam you, Mom.
Mom, I'm in trouble.
I need you to send me money, please. I don't want to become a meme, humiliated by everyone at school.
Kill yourself, you fucking loser.
And I certainly don't want this. What you share online is like a digital footprint that will follow me around for the rest of my life. I'm telling you this because I know you love me and would never do anything to harm me. So please, Mom, please, Dad, protect my virtual privacy.
Well, with that, I think we have set the perfect context as to what's in store for this discussion, leveraging data and AI for competitive advantage. And to spearhead this conversation, first up, let's invite on stage Mr. Atanu Pramanic, VP, IT and COO, RPSG-CESC. Let's put our hands together as he steps forward. Next up, I'd also like to invite Mr. Vishal More, Vice President and Head GIS PI Industries. A very warm welcome. Next, joining us on stage is Dr. Amit Rakesh Sethi, CDIO Thermax Limited. A very warm welcome. And next up, joining us on stage is Mr. Abhishek Ranjan, Regional Sales Leader, DXC India. A very warm welcome. Well, this is the first panel discussion of the day, and we are really looking forward to this conversation. Over to our moderator to take this forward.
Hi, good afternoon everyone. So the video that was shown to you, I think many of you would have already seen it. So to start a session for data and AI, I can't start, or no one can start without positioning it with the context of data privacy, data secrecy, and how do you manage data. right? So the video did not tell us what we should do or what we should not do. It is, as Dr. Shodhindra was mentioning, it is always contextual. We all, by our emotions, put pictures, videos into the social media. Will this happen to all of us? May not be. But if 1 or even 0.1% face this, how do we manage this, right? So there is no right and wrong. Just wanted to contextualize the discussion before I start that. So I have a very power-packed panel with Abhishek, Amit, and actually we had quadruple of A, but we replaced one of the A's, right? The initial thought process of Khalida was to have all A's on the dais. But the fourth A replaced by V.
Yeah, that's an inverted A.
Inverted A, yeah, but still A is there, right? So I will just read through a few of the data points that is available there in the internet. Nothing specific that I am talking about, but again, just to contextualize. Today we are talking about data and AI. So probably I'll ask a few questions to just get you involved. Shastri, if you can get a couple of mics there within the audience. Yeah, no, I'll just ask a few things. So, what is more important to you, data or AI? Just quick, data or AI?
Data.
Okay, data for AI. Data. Okay. Great. I mean, there is nothing right or wrong. There is no correct definition of that or correct, I would say, precedence of that. So again, some of the data points that we are talking of AI so many times a day, and Dr. Kaushik also mentioned that if you don't speak about AI, then you should not be there on the dais. So when was AI, the term was coined? It was more than almost 70 years back. 69 to be precise as per the internet. 1956 or somewhere between 1950 and 1956, right? So it is not a new term that we are talking about. And precisely 3 decades back or more than that, when I was in college, when this buzzword was kicking us for the last 4, 5, 6 years, I went back and thought, 4th year my project was on AI. What I was doing then? But that definition was very different, and this definition is very different. When was the current set of AI introduced into the world? Anyone? Not the 1956 AI. What we are talking about now, when was that first introduced to the world? Yeah, I mean, actually the OpenAI as an organization was initiated or set up in 2015, and it was ran as a non-profit organization till 2018, where Elon Musk was one of the co-chairs. And in 2019, it was made for profit. And the quote-unquote chat GPT was made available in November 22. So there is a question for all of us that, even there in the panel, so I'll not take their answers out. But the questions remains that with the pace that we are moving, and the AI that is kind of cannibalizing all other technologies, so as to say, what will AI do for us in next 30, 40, 50, even 100 years? So I'll put that while I come back to the panel as a question to all of you. I'll ask the panelists also the same question, and I'd also like to hear from you at the end of the panel. So with that, I'll go back to the list of questions that we discussed. There might be a few surprises, by the way. So yeah, thanks for joining me. So I'll just go round robin with this first starting question that, Abhishek, to you is, what does AI mean to you? In terms of forms of AI, in terms of the chronology of AI, in terms of the future of AI, what does AI mean to you?
In layman's word, AI is a machine or system which performs those tasks which requires human intelligence. So AI, for me, AI means machine or system which is able to perform certain tasks which requires human intelligence. There are certain branches of AI like normal AI or weak AI, Gen AI. Normal AI means if it requires, if we need to do some work within a certain domain, normal AI or weak AI is there. If a human, whatever work a human can do is a Gen AI. There are other branches as well.
Right, great, Abhishek. So if Amit, you can just have a try at that.
So is the audio coming through? Yes. Okay. So no, thanks for that. So I represent a company for called Thermax, right? So we are roughly not as old as AI, but very close, 1965, so maybe 65, 70 years. So for us, we are an industrial equipment manufacturer, and we are focusing on the problem of climate change, right? So we call ourselves partners in energy transition. So as manufacturing worldwide shifts to greener sources of energy, we are looking at AI more as a tool to accelerate that shift, right? So our entire focus of AI is how do you move from coal to greener fuels like biomass? How do you do water treatment using AI? How do you reduce industrial emissions using AI? How do you do waste heat recovery using AI? So we are trying to blend a lot of our mechanical engineering knowledge with AI. So for us, it's solving for climate change or environmental, the risk of environment that we see around us of climate change using AI. Yeah, thanks.
Great, thanks Amit. So Vishal.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Vishal Mure. I represent PI Industries. We are into agrochemicals, and it's around a 75-year-old company. We are well known in the agrochemical space within India. And we are the only company, chemicals company in India, which is largely invested in discovery of new molecules in the agrochemical space. Right? One of our newest verticals, biologicals, because typically agrochemicals, we talk about synthetic chemicals, which obviously have certain potency, and it has got certain level of harmful effect also if we exceed beyond a point, right? So we are basically delving into the area of biologicals, which basically will help farmers grow the crops in organic way, right? So we'll be using natural ingredients. Okay, so this is something. So one of our punchlines is reimagining a healthier planet, right? So these are, this is our vision, and we are using AI in numerous ways within the organization. But coming back to Atanu's question, let me just put the context, right? See, when we talk about AI, broadly we are talking about three major forms, right? One is generative AI, which everybody knows, right? One is everybody must have used ChatGPT. There is DALL-E, then who use O365, they might be using Copilot. So this is generative AI. What is the use of generative AI? Generative AI is principally for creating creative content, right? So it could be used for basically, in numerous ways. And primarily it is used to reduce the load on manpower and save time, right? So it helps to create creative content, right? So it can be used very effectively for marketing campaigns, etc. You know the users actually, right? The second type of AI, the broad category, what I'm talking about is agentic AI. Now agentic AI is very different from your generative AI, right? The idea over here is to not generate creative content, not to respond, but to act. Right? So within the organizations, for automating your existing operations, agentic AIs are being used. Many of the software vendors are basically building agentic AIs into their various platforms. And the third AI is predictive AI, right? So where you predict, okay, the future outcomes of what you desire, to predict basically. So some actually top of the mind examples, if you ask me, like in agentic AI, there is a company called Devin. Okay, so you can develop, your applications and source code and everything within that, right? Then if we talk about predictive AI, I already gave the example of generative AI. Then if we talk about predictive AI is being used by various companies, especially in the logistics companies like Amazon. Amazon predicts actually what you're going to buy next, right? And it basically flashes, right? Based on your behavior, it basically flashes the items which you might possibly buy, right? So that's a platform which they have built on OpenAI, and it's a joint, kind of a development between OpenAI and Bain & Co, right? Then UPS uses to basically optimize its supply chain to reduce, the time for delivery, etc. Right? So this is how, these are the three broad categories. All the other AI categories would essentially be sub, parts of these three broad categories. Why it's important to know the broad categories is how you use it, right? You can't use a generative AI where you require predictive models, right? Because the function is very different. The way it is built is very different. It is made to serve a very different purpose, right? So knowing this, learning this will help companies to deploy AI in innovative ways and which will help them in their future growth.
Great, Vishal. So basically what we just heard from the panel is generative is more or less creation, agentic is action, while predictive is prediction, right? So nicely discussed. Obviously at the last point what Vishal you mentioned is what do we use under what context? So contextualization is very important. Contextualization and how do you connect your business with the technology that you use in a profitable way, right? So my next question would be to you, Amit, is if you can share, maybe not divulging your IP, is one of the real world use case where you might be using AI today. And again, unless you really measure, you cannot say whether you're using it usefully or not. So what is your business context? What is your technology context? And what is your, I would say, user adoption context, right? So without any of these three, probably you will not be a success. So Amit.
So yeah, so we, like I said, we are an energy company, right? And we basically started around 60 years back manufacturing boilers. That's what Thermax was known for, right? So that's steam. So every industry in India today uses steam, right? And we are in a way treated as a bellwether for the Indian manufacturing sector. If Thermax's results are good, that means the manufacturing sector is investing. There is capex in the manufacturing sector, right? So when we had this whole scenario on AI, so how we thought about a particular problem that we thought about was, so everyone knows SaaS here, right? I'm assuming everyone knows SaaS, so software as a service. For us, we launched SaaS in a new avatar. We called it Steam as a service, right? And then we changed it to how do you have green steam as a service for manufacturing companies. So what does that mean is, traditionally India has always been a coal-fired country, right? Where our primary source of energy has been coal, right? And then at the same point of time, we all know in the north from October to Feb, we all know the problem of pollution where the farmers burn biomass, right? In that weather, right? So we essentially changed the source of energy or from coal to biomass, and we through our equipment launched controlled combustion of biomass for generating steam. So now what happens is you are doing controlled combustion, you are taking care of emissions, you're moved to a renewable source of energy because biomass is renewable. Coal is highly polluting, right? And now that was the context, right? Now within that context, if we think about technology, now we have to run our business profitably. If we manufacture something that increases the cost of steam for customers, they would not accept it. So what we invested in AI or artificial intelligence is, how do you, as you make the switch from coal to biomass, how can you ensure that your per kg of steam cost does not increase, right? And that's where a lot of our algorithms today work. When we use the same boiler with certain engineering changes to manufacture, to generate steam. I'll give you a quick example. There's something called soot that gets generated in a boiler when you burn coal or biomass. There's soot that gets generated. The soot that gets deposited on the walls of the boiler will prevent heat transfer. So you have to do soot blowing periodically in the boiler to reduce, to improve the heat transfer rate so that you don't lose energy. And what we are using machine learning right now is for doing soot blowing optimization. How frequently do you need to do soot blowing, right? So for us, that's the context is, again, generating steam in an environmentally friendly manner. The technology we used, machine learning models. If you want me to go a little bit more specific, we do a lot of multivariate regression models, right? And then, yeah, essentially that's just one example of how we are using it in our world. Yeah, thanks.
Great, Amit, thanks. So, both of you, Vishal and Amit, are kind of 70 plus years old in the industry. Your organizations, not yet you, yeah? Okay. So, the challenge that most of us are facing working in quote unquote legacy organizations is mapping or matching your legacy data with the latest technology, that's AI, right? So the question that comes up obviously is, when you are using AI for a business purpose, for the right context, you always have to, at the back end, you always need to have the data. And in a legacy organization, which maybe I also represent a quote unquote 200 years old organization, right? We are all boasting about having data, 30, 40, 50 years, but they are mostly unstructured, mostly in physical forms, mostly in multiple various different applications and different kind of structures. So when you want to introduce AI, how do you look at this challenge? That what worked for you when integrating AI with legacy systems data? How would you do it differently compared to maybe a native AI company or a native internet native company? So any one of you can just.
Hello. Yeah, so in our case, it was older equipment more than data. So we had equipment which was manufactured 35, 40 years back, and it was generating data using older protocols, right? And so couple of ways we look at this, and honestly, it's the toughest question to answer for all of us as CDIO, CIOs, whatever. Yep. Our breed, that's the toughest question. On the industrial equipment side, it was slightly easier because even if these were old legacy data systems, there was still some structure to it. So for example, whenever we pick up even an old competitor boiler, which is connected to an old SCADA system or a DCS system, we are still able to interpret the data because it's structured. And then we use some of the newer protocols like OPC, UA,
to extract
etc. to extract it out, intelligence out of it, right? Now, if I look at enterprise data, right, that's a whole different ball game. With enterprise data, The closest that we have got to is, if I pick a few examples, we have transformed the data and enriched it in certain cases. If I pick up, I have something called an installed base of my equipment lying with my customers, which has been sold in the last 30 years, but is still operational at customer sites. Now I'm trying to sell services to those customers, right? And there, all the hard work that we would all know in terms of getting to the data source, trying to understand that structure, writing algorithms to improve the quality of data, enrich it. So a lot of hard work has happened there. Have we been able to run artificial intelligence algorithms on that? No. We have been able to get insights out of that data. Artificial intelligence on enterprise data, according to me,
some level of analytics.
Yeah, but not really. The equipments lend themselves to quote unquote machine learning, etc. Much more easier for us than enterprise data right now. Yeah.
Okay. So Vishal, you want to have a tab?
Yeah, I would agree with my colleague here. So see, actually we are in the chemicals industry space, right? So what matters to us is basically the production is extremely important, right? And companies like ours, we are into contract chemical manufacturing. That means that we have our customers mostly, from the Western or the Eastern world, right? And then we manufacture these chemicals as per their specifications, or we invent a new molecule, and then basically, we submit it along with the sample and the documentation, and if the customer okays that, if it meets their requirement, then they give us an order, right? So this is how things work. So we have a very large and effective R&D unit, and I'll take a little bit time over here because see, in crop sciences, typically what happens is you invent a molecule, right, which is supposed to be a pesticide, right, that is supposed to protect a particular type of crop. Now when you invent a molecule, okay, you need to pass it through numerous tests, right? So the first test is basically whether it meets all the biochemical etc. characteristics and requirements which are expected. Second thing is, we do this lab test. So lab test is like a greenhouse test. A greenhouse is like the size of this, this auditorium, right? Wherein you have all these plants which are organized in a single array on the tables, right? And then we test our invented chemical on a part of these plants, and the other part we, use a placebo, right? The guys who do this, they don't know, right, which one is placebo and which one is the chemical, right? There are codes which are mentioned to these plants and all that. After this test is completed, this is basically passed on to organisms or animals, right? So for example, we do our tests on zebrafish and so on and so forth. So there are 7 different kinds of tests. So when this chemical comes out to be okay for safe, okay for use, then actually there are other aspects like potency, right? And to what extent it is active. So as in how many kilograms of this pesticide I will require to basically use it for maybe a 1 acre area of land or 10 acre area of land, right? So I just gave this example. Why? Because it is a very intensive and a time consuming process, right? So our scientists, we have actually a battalion of scientists basically in our Udaipur facility. And so what they do is they keep on inventing. See, nowadays there are so many digital softwares which helps inventing new molecules very, very fast, right? Along with the chemical structures and all that. So our scientists keep on inventing these new molecules which look theoretically fine that they will work, right? But unless and until they pass through all these tests, right? The test through the greenhouse, and there is a microfield test, right? Which means on an acre of land, we try out these chemicals, and then actually we get the license and to sell and so on and so forth. So assume our scientists, develop around 50, 60 molecules, okay? So how are we doing currently? I mean, what we are doing currently to basically reduce this time to the market is we are using AI-based, okay, and I might, sound little, futuristic over here, but we are using quantum algorithms, right? We are using high-performance computing, GPUs from AWS, which helps us in reducing this total number of molecules from 50, 60 to, let's say, 7 or 8, right? So we discredit the rest of the molecules and just take these 7 or 8 molecules, develop the chemicals, and then we do these field trials and samples and so on and so forth. So this is one way in which we are using AI to a certain extent. But frankly speaking, actually, if you ask me, like, is it ingrained in the DNA of the organization? Not really, right? Because we have introduced Copilot, but we are still struggling with the adoption. See, thing is, introduction is one thing, but then people using it in a useful and a creative way, that is completely different. Other thing is, in our plants, we need to manufacture these chemicals. Actually, we manufacture in batches, right? So what matters to us is the yield, okay? That means if I put in, let's say, 100 quantity of raw material, what is my yield basically? Am I getting 98, 99, okay, or am I getting 80? Like, what is my yield and what is my wastage? How do I reduce my wastage? Second thing is, how do I increase my throughput? In a certain amount of time, how much chemical is being manufactured, right? Third thing is efficiency. How do we reduce, the power utilization, water utilization, etc. Chemical companies need to be very, very stringently, strict on the environmental health and pollution aspect. Okay, we get audited very royally on that, right? So efficiency, management is extremely important. And finally, the quality, right? Is it meeting the quality standards of our customer? So over here in this area also, we are dabbling with AI. I would not say we are there to increase the yield, throughput, efficiency, and quality of our finished goods.
Great, Vishal, Amit, great. So I think we have understood a bit about contextualization and connection. We have understood a bit about how to deal with data in from an unstructured world. So before I move into governance, risk, and security, which is definitely an integral part of the whole discussion, I will come to you, Abhishek, is at the end of the day, everything and anything that you do, and even again I go back to Dr. Sudhindra, is the adoption, the change, right? So it's an introduction of a new technology. It's an introduction of new way of doing business. So Abhishek, your thoughts on how would you be building your employee confidence, right? In one side, we are talking about AI taking away our jobs, right? On the other side, we are introducing AI for productivity increase, right? But you cannot do away with your employees. So how do building employee confidence and leadership alignment as AI changes roles and responsibilities within the organization?
So I represent a global IT MNC company. We are a pure play IT services company, DXC Technology. Okay. So we all know that we keep on hearing in the blogs or in the newspaper that see all those people who were instrumental in creating the AI related tools and all, the first impact came on them only. They only lost their job. Okay. So IT companies, they are facing this problem. Every other day we are hearing that X company or Y company, they have laid off these many resources. But our company, we have a policy of employee first, employee focus. So we have thought through a plan on that and we are working on that. So we are trying to reskill our resources using AI driven. I'm using AI as a co-pilot, not as a replacement. We continuously conduct leadership boot camp or town halls so that we can create a shared view with our employees. Okay, so this is helping us, and the focus of the company is to rather augment the human intelligence than replace it. So this is working for us, and this is creating a confidence among our employees, and everybody is aware that, see, we have not announced any layoffs in last 2 years.
Right, great, Abhishek. So I think what we understand is use the technology as a co-pilot, use the technology as a catalyst, even if it's a disruptive catalyst, but use it as a kind of a coordination and cooperation, right? Great, Abhishek, thanks. So let's move on to the next question that is there with all of us is, again, AI at the end of the day is a demon, is a behemoth, right? I mean, unless you are able to really use it appropriately with the right context, it might go out of your hands. So, Amit, can you throw some light on the topic of how would you like to kind of do a governance, that what should be used, what is the ethical use? So we talk about and we hear about AI poisoning. We hear about AI hallucination, right? So how do you really propose to have a proper governance and security and risk management about this technology?
See, so I think the most important thing is to really understand the technology well, right? For reasons good or bad, we have become users of the best algorithm that the platform suggests, and we do not know what the platform is doing in the background. So if we as an OEM are launching any AI models in the market, we try to invest a lot of time in understanding why the algorithm is behaving the way it is behaving and what data is it generating. So I think one part of being a responsible supplier of AI algorithms is to really understand the technology extremely well and don't treat it as a black box. So we do invest a lot in partnerships with academic institutes. So we work closely with IIT Bombay, we work closely with VJTI here in Mumbai, right? And we invest a lot in the data science part of it. In terms of the fairness aspect, right, that is the other thing that we have to be very cautious, right? We are extremely cautious in recommending a spare or a services purchase to a customer basis an AI algorithm because we do not. I'll give you an example of a Fortune 20 MNC in the food and beverages space. And they have told us that, okay, if your AI algorithms on this solution are telling us that we need this spare or service, please send a message to my ERP and raise a PR on you. I do not want a human to be in the loop. And that for us is a sea change in how we have interacted with organizations in the past. Because now they are saying, okay, if my machine tells your software algorithm that I need to buy a spare or a service, we trust this algorithm, please connect with my ERP and raise a PO. I will not involve any human in the loop. We have been extremely cautious with that customer because we have to be very fair in terms of whether that spare or service is really needed, right? So from two lenses we look at it. One is explainability of the algorithm, right? Are you able to explain, right, what the algorithm is? Second, is it fair to the end customer, what you are recommending, right? And wearing the customer's hat and not wearing your hat is extremely important as you think about those two aspects.
Great, I think transparency as well, right? Explainability and transparency. Sure. Great. So I think as we are inching towards the end of the discussion session, so a standard question for all three of you is, now with all these, while I set a question to all of you in the beginning, that what will AI do to us in the next 30, 40, 50, 100 years, I'll come back to you. But to the panel on the dais is, with the introduction of these technologies, the role per se of the CIO, CDO, CDIO, CTO, whatever you call it, is changing, right? So while we have been trying to position ourselves as business partners, business associates, but I don't know how many CEOs think that way. We are very happy in positioning ourselves unilaterally that we are business partners. So be it. But at the end of the day, the roles are changing. So how would you reimagine that the role of a CIO as a transformation leader in the evolving age of AI, and what one's mindset shift should have for such adoption? And I'll go one by one. Yeah, Abhishek.
I think everybody in this room will agree that down the line, 10 years, 15 years back, when we used to discuss with the CIOs and all, okay, so that time we used to discuss about the projects, or we used to treat them as a technology enabler. So the dialogue was always confined to a particular project and all, okay. But nowadays, whenever we are speaking with the CIOs or CIDOs and all, we see change in their approach. They are talking like a business. They work very closely with the business. They are, along with their business, they are creating business value for their organization. Other point is, I see that their thinking, their thinking is changing from the project-based approach to product-based approach, where they keep on during the implementation or during the implementation, they keep on innovating and improving the product.
Okay, great, Abhishek. Yeah, Amit.
If I think about the role of the CIO or CDIO in future, I think AI, like any other technology, is a huge opportunity for all of us to get at the front end of the business, to have a seat on the table with the board, and make AI relevant to the heart of the business. So in our case, we are using AI not as a lever of productivity, but as a lever of growth. And the moment you use it as a lever of growth, we are using it to sell more services, we are using it to sell more equipment, sell more spares. You automatically get a seat on the table, right? Versus just a cost-cutting productivity enabler. The second thing that I have realized is that in the age of AI, humility is the new smart, right? So how do you stay humble, and how do you go out and collaborate, right? And I think in the earlier session we heard about external partnerships. So how do you stay humble? How do you keep on partnering, not just with the business, but with the external world, ecosystem, the academic institutions, the industry bodies, etc., to bring in
Absolutely.
new ideas? Yeah. Those are the few things that I would say.
Absolutely, Amit. Yeah, thanks, Vishal.
I'll say actually why only CIOs, right? My question to all the CXOs, right? How are you going to use AI as a growth lever, right? Because see what is happening right now, and everybody is seeing that, right? Basically right now we are at a stage wherein we are dabbling with generative AI, right? Trying to push generative AI technologies within the organization so as to improve our productivity, save time, etc., reduce load, right? But slowly, things are moving towards autonomous agentic AIs, right? When I talk about autonomous agentic AIs, what is going to happen is basically some of these subdomains within departments, okay, that work will be done by autonomous agents, because AI will play more and more strategic role. Right now, where are we? AI is being used in an operational role, right? To automate operational tasks, right? And then we are thinking all these software companies which are developing various interesting softwares, they are coming out with solutions, tactical solutions, right? How do they solve a particular business problem? How do they help in demand forecasting? How do they help in basically, getting the correct raw material price, right? How do they, improve the product efficiency, etc. right? But this is slowly moving towards a more strategic role. For example, a very simple example, HR recruitment, right? Now this is a subdomain or a sub-function within the HR, function. Now this entire function, okay, can be taken over by agentic AI in the future, right? It is not a question of, actually just using generative AI anymore, right? Like have 100 resumes on LinkedIn, download them, and then sort through them and tell me actually which are the correct ones whom I should interview. That is something which we are doing with generative AI right now, right? But it will move to agentic AI. The AI agent will itself act autonomous, do all the shortlisting, and recommend which candidate to basically recruit, right? We are moving towards that kind of a world. So I think the question should not be only to CIOs, because CIOs are basically enablers. It's going to basically change the world in which we live in. It is going to affect each and every operation in the near future. And it is something which possibly, obviously everybody is going at full speed towards in this direction. Like what Dr. Amit just mentioned, governance is extremely important. But then, it's a point of time, right? We'll have those governance and checklists in place, and then you will have a fully operational, autonomous agentic AI system which acts very strategically within subdomains in the organization. Yeah.
Great, Vishal. So before I close, quick go back, maybe not totally out of context, but related. In one of the earlier sessions, I was lucky to be part of Dr. Ramcharan's session. Only last week, in one of the open events like this, he was taking a masterclass for quote-unquote CIOs. And the question given to him was why CIOs are still much away from being CEOs. The marketing heads, CMOs, or the CFOs, or operations heads are mostly chosen as next CEOs, but not necessarily the CTOs or the CIOs, right? So 2 or 3 things he just told, and I just wanted to share with this audience is, have you ever listened to your CEO? What questions does he ask? Just listen to him. In a meeting, in a operations review, what questions does he ask? We, even before listening to him, tend to provide solutions, right? So we need to listen what CEO asks. Next, most of the companies in the world, not even in India, in the whole world is promoter driven. So promoter को क्या चाहिए? पैसा आता है क्या? Right? So even though we may not be able to contextualize in a money context any investment in security or ERP or going forward in even AI, but ultimately in the long run, is he making money? Right? So these are few things, few anecdotes, and he presented to us only a small 4 or 5 lines of a P&L statement or a balance sheet and asked us to read through that. And an elite audience of 500 CTOs and CIOs, none of us could read that. None of us could interpret that, right? So as a learning, I think we are good on technology, but we are further away from business. So just to close, I just wanted to answer by myself by Googling from the open internet is what can AI do to us in the year 2125, roughly 100 years from now. And the expectation is that AI will be deeply embedded in every sphere of our life, transitioning from a tool to a co-worker, was the panelist also mentioned, that catalyst, strategist, or even a leader. The workforce will be composed of humans, AI, and advanced robotics working together in hybrid environments. But what AI cannot do is, or substitute, is human intelligence, empathy, and creativity. That's all what Google tells me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's have a huge round of applause for all our speakers. And thank you, Mr. Pramanic, for weaving that whole conversation for us. And of course, to our speakers for giving us so much food for thought. With that, I'd like to invite Mr. Kali Mahapatra to join us and felicitate all our speakers with a memento, a token of appreciation. Right there, beginning with our moderator, Mr. Atanu Pramanic, VP IT and CEO, RPSG-CESC. Let's give a huge round of applause. We'd of course like to thank Mr. Abhishek Ranjan, Regional Sales Full Leader, DXC India, thanking Dr. Amit, Rakesh, Sethi, and of course also thanking Mr. Vishal More. Thank you so much. We'd love to get your click together. So may I request you to take the center stage for a group picture. Come on everyone, why is the energy so palpitating? Let's give a huge round of applause for them. Some very important key insights right there on how we can really leverage data and artificial intelligence for competitive advantage.